I'm Dan Hardy, UFC fighter and lifelong thrill seeker. I've travelled the world with MMA. I love my sport, I live for my sport.
Now I'm in Poland, travelling around a country obsessed with mixed martial arts. A nation with a history of fortitude, power and strength. Training with the best, learning from the best. Meeting the fighters set to take the UFC by storm. And revealing a country that is a true home of mixed martial arts.
Wsiadaj, jedziemy!
I've heard a lot about Polish mixed martial arts. In the last 10 years, the sport has swept the nation. I'm touring Poland to see how fans and fighters are preparing for UFC Fight Night Krakow on April 11th. To kick off, I'm heading 3 hours west of Warsaw to a rural town where tonight the local gym is hosting Slugfest, a classic lower tier mixed martial arts event.
This seems very much like an old grassroots show that I used to go to. It's about 1,000 people here. It seems good, man. It seems very well organised. I saw the ambulance outside. That's always a good sign. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the stand of the fights are like. Thanks, sir. Great to meet you. It's got my shirt on. How cool is that? Came all the way here. I've got some supporters. I like that. Thank you, my friend. Really good. I can feel it as I watch the fighters walk out. I know what they're going through. I know how they're feeling, and it's that moment where every cell in your body starts to switch on and starts to fire because the adrenaline's going. There's no feeling like it. This is a really well organised show. I mean, they've got commentators, they've got a live screen feed going on. If you were to go to a town of this kind of size in the UK, you wouldn't expect, well, you wouldn't expect a pub to be open after about 9 o'clock at night, I don't think. So, let alone an event like this. Oh, body kick, beautiful, wow. That was very Jan Blachowicz, wasn't it? I always found myself so much more nervous for these type of events because my goal was always to get to the UFC. It was kind of weird, my UFC debut at 89, it was the first fight I'd not really had any nerves for because I'd almost achieved what I'd set out to do. Like both of these guys, I'm sure, are dreaming of fighting in the UFC one day. And one of them tonight will be a step closer and the other one will be a step further away.
Since becoming a UFC commentator, I can't seem to go anywhere without being handed a microphone.
Then it's a pleasure to have you here. We are very glad. So give us please your thoughts about tonight's event.
I think the fights have been very good. They've been very competitive, good exchanges on the ground, good striking. I'm very impressed with the event. It's been very organised and you've been very welcoming. Thank you.
Okay, so what's now?
Now is the time for the main event. That was crazy. I mean, we drove out 3 hours from Warsaw into a village of a population of 7,000 people, and there were 1,000 people in the sports hall watching up-and-coming MMA fighters. You know, some of them having their debuts, some amateurs, and some pros that are looking to go on to bigger things like the UFC. It's just amazing. I just wouldn't expect something so big and so well organised to be in such a small village. It's a great start to the trip. I mean, what a perfect place. We see the grassroots level, and then we're going to go on to see during the rest of the week how the country's preparing for the UFC for the big show in April. It's going to be a great week. I'm excited for it.
Time to hit the road and see how the athletes are preparing for UFC Fight Night Krakow.
Earlier on in my career, when I was looking for places to go and travel, America was the obvious choice, and all the big gyms were there, all the big fighters were there. Poland was never even on my radar. I would have never ever thought to come and train here.
Warsaw, the nation's capital. I'm heading to one of the best-known MMA gyms, the S4 Fight Club. It boasts a number of UFC fighters, but I'm keen to see how debutant strawweight Izabela Badorek is preparing for UFC Fight Night Krakow. I've never heard of this gym before, which is strange because it seems like they've got about 20 fighters out of here, which is, I mean, that's a big fight team. I'm excited to see Isabella, and this is really where I get to learn about fighters. I can learn about records and names and stuff, but I want to see what their fighting skills are like. There's no better way to understand a fighter than to get on the mat with them. It's a real chance to see what Isabella's working on. I was watching Isabella warm up, and one thing that I noticed immediately from doing yoga a lot is her flexibility. She has unusual flexibility for a fighter. She's got quite a well-balanced skill set. She's obviously a good wrestler and kickboxing. I mean, she's trying spinning kicks and all kinds of stuff. So. This is another thing about women's MMA, is that because there are so few women to train with, we see a lot of female MMA fighters training with guys, which obviously helps with their strength. I mean, like, from my experience, when I've trained with bigger guys, I always found that when I went back to my weight class, it was much easier to move people around. Here she's working an opponent rushing and trying to land some shots on her and covering up and looking for the opportunity to level change. Her opponent will step in, and then she'll try and level change and catch them at the right time. Good drive on that takedown. She seems to have all areas covered, which again is quite unusual for women's MMA. I think she's going to be a great addition to the strawweight division. What do you think it will do for Polish MMA to have the UFC come to Krakow and do a big show? Do you think it will help the sport grow in this country?
Tak, myślę, że to rzuci nowe światło na walki. Stanie się to bardziej popularne. Jest już dość popularne, ale myślę, że to będzie nasz taki główny sport. Nie piłka nożna, tylko MMA.
So when you first got that call from your manager or promoter to tell you that you were going to be fighting on the UFC, how did that feel?
Byłam szczęśliwa, ale nie docierało to do mnie. Na początku myślałam, że sobie ze mnie jaja robi. No ale pokazał mi potem kontrakt, uwierzyłam. I stało się. Na razie myślę o tej walce, żeby jak najlepiej się pokazać.
And do you feel nervous for the fight?
Nie, bardziej mnie wywiady stresują niż sama walka.
Yeah.
Lubię walczyć.
In the last 400 years, Poland has fought for freedom over 40 times. This history of combat has made them into hardened fighters, chiseled from centuries of conflict. And I've heard that there's one thing I have to try my hand at to truly understand their fighting spirit. So I've been told to come to this sports facility in the middle of Warsaw. I'm meeting some guys here and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I've been told that they're the best people to speak to about combat and the history of Poland. Whoa. I'm Dan. Nice to meet you, Dan.
I'm Chris. Nice
Wow.
to meet you.
What is this? Is this like is it like a reenactment?
It's a bit like reenactment, but what we are doing, it's really about fight.
And you use real weapons. These are real metal weapons.
Yeah, it's real weapon.
It's gotta hurt, right?
Yeah, you will see.
I am from Nottingham though, and we do have a castle in Nottingham, so I feel like I might be quite good at this. There are so many dreams coming true for me right now. Always wanted to dress up as a knight. This is very cool.
How you feel?
I'm surprised how well it moves. I was expecting it to be so much more cumbersome and heavy and stiff. I don't want to do anything until I've seen a demonstration of this thing, because I've seen the dents in this guy's armor, so I need to see what's going to go on first. So can I get a demonstration from these guys?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Guys, fight!
Oh! I'm a little anxious, I'll be honest, because these guys are not pulling any punches. They're hitting each other full power. and I've never had to wear a suit of armour for anything before, so that should be interesting. It feels heavy, it's hot. I can't imagine being on a battlefield with one of these, that's for sure. It must be exhausting.
You're ready?
I think so, about as ready as I'm gonna be. I think I'm done. Coming up, I'm hitting the road to meet Poland's co-main event fighter and huge UFC prospect, Jan Blachowicz.
When he throws his right hand, I can feel it through the mat.
I'll be spending some time with the new strawweight UFC champion, Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
I think we're really lucky in Europe to have a champion as good as her.
And I'll see how Krakow is preparing for the arrival of the UFC.
This place is going to erupt. It's going to be amazing.